what I suggest is that film theory, better than literary theory, help us comprehend those narrative strategies through which Gomorrah sizes the real. In his last work, Marco Di Noi, a young scholar of film theory, and its last work is Lo sguardo e l'evento, attempted to articulate an empirical typology through which a text may capture and inhabit the historical world. He identifies three figures, which are graph, drawing, and insert. To clarify these figures, is a good thing to start by a very illuminating article written by Rachel Donadio, former contributor to the book review section of the New York Times. After a rather positive evaluation of Gomorrah, she concludes expressing some perplexities. Some anecdotes are suspiciously perfect. The tailor, who quits his job after seeing Angelina Jolie on television at the Oscars, wearing a white suit he made in a Camorra sweatshop. The man, who loved his AK-47 so much, he makes a pilgrimage to Russia to visit its creator, Mikhail Kalashnikov. Did the author change any names? If so, readers aren't informed. These are not small matters and should have been disclosed. Now, Rachel Donadio addresses a major question, because in Gomorrah, to the perfection of certain anecdotes corresponds always a violation, or at least a suspension of the reader's possibility to verify the facts, the referentiality. The suspicious anecdotes mentioned here are in fact what I call grafts, or at least the first of them. This term, grafts, refers to those narrative situations that focus on a documented event, assuming it as an iconographic and figurative scheme of reference, and at the same time recontextualizing its meaning. As Donadio reviews demonstrates, a graph installs textual meanings upon real events. In other words, the testimony of certain characters begins from the text, intersects the historical world, Angelina at the Oscars, and then comes back once again to the text. This is the device employed in many narrative situations in Gomorrah. Now, what happens? Once we have seen the image of Angelina Jolie from the living room of Pasquale, the tailor who made the suit, this image no longer portrays a world characterized by wealth, elegance, charm, but rather a world made of exploitation, poverty, social injustice. The graph recontextualizes the meaning of the events, undermining their what we may call their rhetorical strategy. But in order to function, to work, a graph requires always entry and exit points, a continuous cross-references, a rebidding between the text and the historical world. In the Kalashnikov chapter, for instance, is Mariano, another character, the one that is mentioned by Rachel Donadio, who alternates between the bar, which is a textual locus, and Mikhail Kalashnikov's home, which is presumably a real place. But to dissimulate the graph, Mariano becomes a pure gaze, a detachable gaze. In fact, Kalashnikov's home is not described in Mariano's work, but in a video that he himself had recorded. We will never find out whether the walls of Kalashnikov's house are really plastered with copies of Vermeer's, as written in the book, or whether Mariano or anyone else may have eaten buffalo mozzarella cheese with the old general. But here we see how the graph can mutate its own form, giving rise to a second figure, what I call the insert. This object, although linking itself to official history, does not pre-exist the narrative. Simply put, the insert always introduces a fictional character or element which serves to advance the text towards the articulation of the narrative.